Imagine you're 6 years old. You wake up before sunrise. There is no school waiting for you, no homework, no toys scattered across your bedroom floor. In fact, there isn't even a bedroom. You live with around 40 people in a temporary camp. The walls around you are made from branches, animal hides, and whatever materials your group could find nearby. And here's the strange part. By the time you're 12 years old, you will already know most of what you need to survive. Not because someone sat you down and taught you, because your life depends on learning every single day. Today, when children make mistakes, the consequences are usually small. Forget your homework, you get a bad grade, lose your phone, annoying. But in ancient times, some mistakes could mean hunger, injury, or even death. So, what exactly did children learn before schools existed? And how did they become capable adults without classrooms, textbooks, or teachers? The answer is far more fascinating than most people imagine. For most of human history, childhood looked completely different from today. There were no school bells, no desks, no standardized tests. Yet children still learned enormous amounts of information. In many ways, they learned more practical skills than most adults possess today. The process started almost immediately. Ancient children spent nearly every waking hour surrounded by adults. There wasn't a separate world for children and another for grown-ups. Everyone lived together. Children watched everything. They watched people make tools. They watched people cook. They watched people gather plants. They watched people track animals. And slowly, without formal lessons, they began copying what they saw. Modern psychologists call this observational learning. Ancient humans simply called it life. If a group was preparing animal skins, children would often sit nearby, imitating the motions with scraps of material. If hunters were repairing spears, children would make miniature versions. They weren't playing at being adults, they were practicing. And they started much earlier than you might expect. Archaeologists have discovered tiny stone tools in ancient campsites. Some of these tools were poorly made. Their edges are uneven, the craftsmanship is clumsy, but that's exactly what makes them interesting. Many researchers believe these weren't made by inexperienced adults. They were made by children. Thousands of years ago, children were learning through trial and error, just like kids do today. The difference is that their skills mattered far more. A modern child might spend hours mastering a video game. An ancient child might spend hours learning how to make a tool that could someday provide food. But survival skills were only part of the education. Ancient children also had to learn something even more important: people. Human groups depended on cooperation. No one survived alone. That meant children had to learn how to share, how to resolve conflicts, how to build friendships, how to earn trust. These social skills could be just as important as hunting or gathering. Imagine a teenager who is excellent at hunting but constantly starts arguments. That person could become a problem for the entire group. Ancient communities were small. Everyone knew everyone. There was nowhere to disappear, no anonymous internet, no moving to another city. Your reputation followed you every day. Children learned very quickly that being part of the group mattered. Storytelling played a huge role in teaching these lessons. At night, people often gathered around fires. Their children listened to stories. Some were entertaining, some were funny, some were probably exaggerated. But many carried important lessons. Stories could teach courage, patience, generosity, respect, and because stories are memorable, children often remembered those lessons for the rest of their lives. Even today, humans learn through stories better than through lists of facts. That tendency may have helped our ancestors pass knowledge across hundreds of generations. Ancient children also spent an astonishing amount of time playing. This surprises many people. People often imagine prehistoric childhood as endless hard work. But evidence suggests children played constantly. They chased each other, invented games, pretended to hunt, pretended to gather food, pretended to be adults. And while it looked like fun, something important was happening. Play was training. When children threw sticks at targets, they were developing coordination. When they explored the landscape, they learned their environment. When they acted out adult roles, they practiced future responsibilities. Modern researchers often describe play as nature's classroom. For ancient children, this may have been literally true. As children grew older, responsibilities gradually increased. A 7-year-old might help collect firewood. A 10-year-old might assist in gathering edible plants. Teenagers could join hunting parties or participate in long-distance travel. There was no single moment when a child suddenly became an adult. Instead, adulthood arrived step by step. Each year brought new skills, new expectations, new freedoms, and eventually new responsibilities. One thing that often surprises people is how much freedom many ancient children may have had. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies show that children are often allowed to explore independently from a young age, not because adults didn't care, but because exploration itself was part of learning. A child wandering through the landscape learns where water can be found, which plants are useful, which animals are dangerous. The world itself becomes the teacher. Of course, ancient childhood wasn't easy. Many children never reached adulthood. Disease, accidents, and harsh environments made life dangerous. Parents understood this reality better than anyone. Every lesson mattered. Every skill mattered. Every piece of knowledge could someday save a life. Yet, despite these hardships, ancient childhood was not simply a story of struggle. Children laughed, played games, made friends, got into trouble, annoyed their parents, and dreamed about the future. In that sense, they weren't so different from children today. The details of life have changed dramatically, but human nature hasn't changed nearly as much. A child living 20,000 years ago probably felt curiosity, excitement, jealousy, fear, pride, the same emotions children experience now. The biggest difference is what they needed to learn. Today's children are preparing for a world of technology, schools, and careers. Ancient children were preparing for a world of forests, rivers, animals, and survival. But both were learning the same way humans always have. By watching, by experimenting, by playing, by making mistakes, and by growing up surrounded by people who passed knowledge from one generation to the next. So the next time you imagine ancient humans, don't just think about hunters carrying spears. Think about the children, a 6-year-old copying the adults, a group of friends inventing games, a teenager learning responsibilities for the first time, because those children were doing something extraordinary. They were learning the skills that allowed humanity to survive long enough for all of us to be here today. If you enjoyed this journey into humanity's forgotten past, subscribe, because the next story is even more interesting.